Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm really good, and you?
I'm doing well. Hello to everyone at home joining us. Welcome to Dunlop at Home. We're doing a fun little discussion tonight with Esther Calixte-Bea and Kadine Lindsay. Kadine's just joining us now. How are you, Kadine?
I'm good. It's bright, but we're good.
Yeah, you're shining. We love it. So before we get started, I just wanted to again say thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. We're really excited to get into this talk, and these two artists here are going to share some of their process and their practice with us a bit later. But I wanted to start the night by opening with a land acknowledgement. The three of us are, Kadine and I are in Toronto, and Esther is in Montreal, and Dunlop Gallery is in Saskatchewan, so we wanted to do kind of like a three-parter land acknowledgement, so I'll start with that. So yes, Dunlop Art Gallery is currently situated on Treaty 4 territory, the original lands of the Cree, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. Kadine and I, like I said, are in Toronto, which is on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto is also covered by Treaty 13, which is signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, which were signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Esther is in Montreal, also known as Tionatiage, and it is on the traditional territory of the Ganyangehaga, a place which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst many First Nations, also including the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, the Abenaki, and the Anishinaabe. So land acknowledgements, of course, are just a first step. It's important to know whose land you're currently living on, but even more so to be an active ally, which is really important to me. So what can active allyship look like? It can look like monetary donations to different Indigenous activist groups like Land Back or the 1492 Legal Fund. It can also look like calling your member of parliament to share your frustration with government's mistreatment and mishandling of Indigenous issues such as boil water advisories or the overrepresentation of Indigenous youth in the foster care system in Canada currently. It can also look like volunteering your time, showing up to protests, and using any platform you have to uplift Indigenous voices. I personally think it's really crucial as allies and as settlers on this land that we think very deeply about, first of all, of course, like acknowledging the land we're on, but what are the steps we can take today in our daily lives to be conscious allies for our Indigenous brothers and sisters and people who are non-binary. So now that that has been touched upon, I would like to introduce the two artists we have tonight. I'm just going to do a reading of their bios. So I'll start with Esther. Esther Calixte-Bea is a multidisciplinary artist born in Longueuil of Haitian and Ivorian descent. Calixte-Bea's artistic practice expands through various art forms such as painting, photography, fashion, and poetry. Her work addresses topics such as beauty, identity, individuality, and vulnerability in various forms that are often inspired by her personal life and her culture. She has received her bachelor's degree at Concordia University in painting and drawing. Her work has been featured in the Canadian Art magazine, GLAMOUR UK, TVA Nouvelles, and more. She exhibited work in several group shows such as HUMA-I at Rad Hourani, and This Is What Compels Me to Compel Them at Livart. Kadine Lindsay is an artist, social activist, and lover of life. She was born and bred in Kingston, Jamaica. She studies illustration at OCAD University. She creates art with purpose. She creates art for Black people. She's driven by her experiences and the experience of other Black women around her. She expresses the nuance and the complexity of being a Black person. Her intention is to expand her reach and help generations of Black people to see themselves, see their worth, see their feelings and their experiences represented. She also makes it a note to create art that outside of the white gaze because she finds it is important for there to be a space for Black people in art without feeling like they're being constantly surveyed by the white gaze. So now that we've had this lovely introduction of both of our artists, we'll get into our first topic of discussion. And I just wanted to say, if at any point any of our viewers have any questions, you can ask them in the comments or in the chat, and we will get to them a bit later in the conversation. So, there's so much that I want to talk about with the both of you, and we've been having a few conversations over the past few weeks, and I've really gotten a chance to learn about you and learn about how you got into art making and the art that you make now. But I think the best place to start is talking about the works themselves. So I would like to start by talking a bit about why I chose the two of you when I was asked to curate this discussion and what I think are some of the similarities between your works. I think that you definitely both have very distinct approaches to figuration, but there's definitely a similar element within both of your paintings that explores a place where fantasy and reality converge and intermingle. The work really depicts the surreality of Black womanhood outside of any other gaze than our own, which is, I think, what really drew me in the first place. When I first saw your pieces, I was immediately taken and I wanted to learn more about you and learn more about your work. I think when I first discovered Esther, it was in the most recent, the fall issue of CANADIANART in one of the back pages. And I was flipping and I just had to stop the moment I saw all of the colors and the Black women at the table. And Kadine, I first saw your work scrolling through Twitter, and one of your pieces was posted by someone, and I just had to stop scrolling and kind of contemplate it for a moment. So I really love when work grips me that way, and I'm really happy that I've gotten a chance to get to know you and talk with you a bit more. So I'm going to share my screen, and we can start getting into a discussion of one of Esther's pieces. Wait 1 second, sorry. Okay, I just wanted to make sure my screen was being shared.
Inception.
So Esther, let's start with having you kind of, with each piece we show, let's have you say the title, and you can start off by talking a bit about it. So let's start with this.
Yeah, in this piece, it's called The Conversation. I was still at school because I graduated this year at Concordia in painting and drawing. So I was still in school, and it was my last semester. And I wanted to create a painting with Black people. Of course, I've always painted Black people, Black women in particular. And in this work, I wanted to capture individuality, to capture it through jewelry and through with their hairstyles. Because I thought it was important, because when I walk around or when I watch shows and things like that, I could see, and when I talk to other Black people, I could see how unique everyone is, and I want to capture that in my work. But also in most of my works, it's really about like each object is symbolic. Like for me, nudity represents vulnerability, and in this work, it's really about like richness and like Black women coming together and eating desserts and like talking about how they could help the Black community move forward. And it's just because obviously women, because we birth the children. So I thought that was really important in my work, and I wanted to capture that. And it's really colorful because that's just who I am. As you can see, I'm wearing something really bright. So yeah, I wanted to capture Black women like in their different shades, skin tones, short hair, long hair, and different hairstyles, and so on.
And I think what affects me, I guess, about this work is the way that I almost feel like I'm in the painting. And we spoke a bit about how you like to play around with perspective because you don't necessarily like drawing or painting traditional perspectives. Tell me a bit more about that sort of motivation.
I remember in my drawing class in college, we had to like use rulers to like draw out perspective. And
Mhm.
I hated it. It was so difficult for me, and I just didn't understand with all the rulers, and here's the sun, here's the lighting, and it was so complicated. And it kind of like, I guess, oftentimes when I really don't like something, it appears in my work in a weird way.
Yeah.
So like, I really wanted to create like this weird table that doesn't make sense, but I make it make sense with like how the characters are positioned. But also, I
Mhm.
wanted to like when we see the arms eating this blue cake, we don't see the rest of her body, but it's to say how many people are kind of sitting around that table, and also that us as the viewer, we're also part of it. We're sitting at that table as well, and we're part of that conversation that's being had. And so for me, strange, I think like because I've seen a lot of works with like really interesting angles, and I always kind of liked that, and I wanted to try it out like this strange angle. It almost
Mhm.
seems like we're looking above to kind of see like all the desserts, and we're like part of the work as well. Like I really wanted to focus on the characters and not like, because I obviously it's outside with the blue, we kind of see it's outside, but like I wanted really the characters to be the focus, so it's really zoomed in.
Yes, that's another thing that I like about a lot of your work. The focus, like you're saying, is always your figures, and there's a sense of the world that they may be in, but it's never directly, or it's never overtly direct. Um, let's move on. Actually, I also just wanted to mention to everyone watching, this is the piece that I saw that made me have to look Esther up. So it's just absolutely glorious. I even love how it seems like the women are like clambering over each other to get to the table.
Yeah. I just like I wanted to make it like really interesting and kind of like weird in a way, kind of like, oh, they all want to get some cake but they can't reach, you know, the table is large but kind of small and not everyone has the seat, so like they're all part of that conversation. It's kind of like when you're like with your family and there's sometimes not enough seats, so you're standing and eating and just like watching what's happening. You still want to be part of what's going on, so you're here like trying to get some food because people are in the way. So yeah.
I can definitely relate to that at family dinners. So this is a piece where you have like there's sort of like a sense of motion that's happening, and you've told me in the past that you like to show motion by having like multiple limbs, arms and
Mhm.
legs. When I first saw this, I was looking at it in a very like direct way, and I was like, oh, it's two people. But I would love for you to just explain your thinking behind this painting.
So this work is called Identity,
Mhm.
and it's kind of like based on observation and also my personal life, and kind of like wanting to be different so bad to the point that you're kind of like destroying yourself. You're trying to create this identity and almost turning into this unrecognizable being. And in this particular painting, we see body hair because that's really important to me because I'm a body hair activist, and I want to kind
Mhm.
of show the extent this character is going to like change herself. So she's like straightening her pubic hair, she's coloring it, she's cutting her hair. So so you see like it's a really really intense work, and that's how I kind of wanted to make it. And also most of my ideas just come up in my head like this, like randomly.
Yeah.
So I saw this weird being in my head and I was like, I have to paint this. So so I painted it. And so it's kind of like if I'm being completely honest, when I was painting this character, I realized that I painted two um, right feet. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so weird. Like you don't notice it at first, but I was just staring at my work and I was like, oh no, I made a mistake, but it's okay. This is art. I could fix it. I could change it. So I kind of like added this new character, which is basically the same person. It's kind of like that's what I was saying about like multiple limbs and like motion and like
Mhm.
because it represents like what she looked like before and her frustration and like kind of like her cutting her hair, and at the end we kind of see what she's doing now and straightening her pubic hair, you know.
I just also noticed the color of her face has been lightened in like this new version of herself.
Mm-hmm.
Was that
So it's kind of like
intentional?
it's kind of like a spotlight, or it's makeup. It's kind of
Okay,
a lot of things.
cool. I just absolutely adore how surreal this is and how it seems like they could even be somewhere in space. Like I can't grasp where they are, and that makes me want to look longer and sit with it longer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because the character is like in her room. It's kind of like an intimate setting. You know,
Mhm.
she's just like alone with all her. No, we see the hangers and stuff
Yeah.
because she's like, about like changing yourself, or you just undressing yourself. Nudity again adds vulnerability, and so it's kind of like being alone and struggling alone as well.
Mhm. So this is a close-up of a work you're currently, or that's a
Yes.
work in progress, or is it finished?
Yeah. Um, so this work is finished, but it's a
Cool.
close up. It's a
Yes.
close up, and it's like I didn't want to show anybody yet because I'm really planning on working on like a body of work, and
Oh,
so yeah, it's part of this big piece. I
exciting.
can't say too much.
You don't have to. I would love to talk a bit about your process, though. Um, what are like in terms of your art making? How do you go from blank canvas to finished product?
Um, So basically, I kind of do like a wash. Well, it's called a ground. So like on my canvas, obviously the gesso, and then I do like a ground color. So like I tend to do blue or pink, and then I start layering, like kind of like doing like a silhouette of my character, and then I kind of dive in. But the skin tone, the base skin tone, is always like a mix of red and orange, like a peach tone, and
Mhm.
then I start putting the brown colors on top, and it kind of going with the layers
Yeah.
like that. But oftentimes it's very spontaneous because obviously I most of the time I don't work with images, so I try to like look at my work from far and think, okay, what more can I do with this? What can I add? And so it just goes like that. And at the end, like I'm also surprised. Like when I see like the complete work, I'm also surprised because I really didn't know what it was gonna look like. I have this base idea, and then
Yeah.
it just finished. I finished it, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is good. I like it.
How do you go about getting that texture in the hair?
Oh, it's a medium that I use. It kind of looks like sand, but I kind of
Oh,
mixed it with the paint, and I created that text, which creates that texture.
yeah, I love that. And then we see a little bit of glimpse of body hair on a shoulder or
Hmm.
yeah.
Exactly.
And then here's maybe a better demonstration of you showing body hair work.
Hmm.
And if you'd like to just speak a bit more about your body hair activism.
Yeah. So for this painting, I did it for the Mi Poil movement. It's a movement here in Montreal, which celebrates female body hair. And so I became a body hair activist more like, I would say in 2020, 2029 as well. 2019, sorry, 2019. Because I created a project called the Lavender Project. Um, so since I was 11 years old, I started growing chest hair. And it was very difficult for me growing up because I always had to hide it. And I was just, I was a very, very insecure child, but also very shy. And I didn't like myself. I thought I was ugly, and plus I was hairy, compared to most girls. And so I was always hiding it, and it became like such a burden to me. And it was like detrimental to my mental health. I was going really down. I was becoming really depressed. And so in the summer of 2019, I created this project that I call the Lavender Project, which is a self-liberating for self-photography project. I created this dress that I sewed that's purple and that reveals my chest hair. And it was like I wanted to kind of like free myself from that burden.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so I created that project and I posted on Instagram, and I was really stressed out, but I wanted to, because I was tired. I was becoming way too sad, way too depressed. And I was like, I have to find a way to free myself. And I started working a lot on my self-confidence. and I started to love myself more. And it was interesting because when I was going to the esthetician and removing the body hair, like my chest hair, I was so kind of like, I got so used to seeing it that without it, it almost seemed like it wasn't me anymore. And so I kind of chose to accept that it's part of me, and create an art project out of it, and which I did.
I love
And,
it.
yeah, but at first, like, I wasn't, I didn't label myself as a body hair activist. It was just someone on Instagram who called me that, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I am.
Thank you for the title. And then you mentioned Mes Poils. Was that a group show or?
Oh, it's a movement.
Oh, a
It's a
movement.
movement. It happens online. A lot of women send their pictures with their body hair, and so I did like a collab with them, and so that's what I did. I did a painting and also a series of pictures.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing and talking about your work. I'm going to move on to Kadine for a bit, and then we'll get back to have like a continue the group discussion.
All right, thank you.
So, Kadine, tell us about this beautiful painting.
That's Bodacious Babe. Am I lagging?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Are you?
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Bodacious Babe. So I have a strange way of picking the colors of the people that I tend to paint. And I told my friend this, and she hates that I do this. So the way I usually pick the color of the person that I want to paint is when one paint is running out and there's a lot of it, I'll just use the paint that there's a lot of and mix it together, and then whatever color comes out is the color that I'm going to use for the person.
I love that, leaving it up to chance.
Yeah. But this really is, I find it really hard to like have a meaning for my paintings. Usually I just, whatever comes to me the day, I'll do it, and then after the painting I'll look at what the meaning is. So this is the after meaning.
Yes.
So basically it's a girl, she's taking her picture. It's like a, you know, those 90s, those vintage 90s school covers, with the background that
that background.
What's that book? Exactly. So it's just someone there having their complex teenage angst and just crying in the yearbook. It's basically a yearbook photo.
It's like a yearbook photo.
Yeah.
And do you think that maybe that difficulty that you have in viewing meaning into your work comes from your art like the way you got into art making?
I think so. Because for me, art isn't very emotional, I guess, because I'm an illustrator by trade, and that just means that instead of painting for myself, I paint for other people. So I think a lot of it is that I just, like, I have the imagery, I get the imagery, and I just make it. There's no, like, specific feeling towards it. There's no specific meaning. I just know at the base what I want to create, and then visually it just happens.
Is that something that is maybe changing or that has maybe changed over the course of this year, that you've kind of broken out and developed your own style?
Yes. Because before it was just, I don't have meaning towards my work. That's it. But now that I have like a style, and I have like people I want to reach, things I want to do, it has all at the base. It has more meaning, but it doesn't have any, like, if it's something personal, it's not necessarily something personal that happens to me. It's just like a general thing or a general feeling or emotion that we share as a community, basically.
Yes. Because you like you said, you paint to create a space for Black womanhood outside of any other gaze, outside of the white gaze. So that definitely it's doing something to your work. It's influencing your work in some way.
Yeah. It's mostly, it influences it with just the atmosphere of it. Like, I'll paint imagery that seems familiar. Like you see it's familiar. Like hoop earrings, you're familiar. You see the edges, you're like, okay, this is a space for me. This is where I exist.
Yes. This next painting is just so cool. I love how the cornrows just go beyond the car, and it's almost as if she's floating somewhere in space with her cool space gun.
Exactly. Exactly.
What's the name of this one?
It's called Lady Donnelly Rockstar. So it's actually a portrait of this Nigerian pop star named Lady Donnelly, and her rollout for her two most recent songs, Parole and Rockstar, was so cool, and it looked so cool, and it looked like nothing I've ever seen before. So I was like, I have to do some space agey looking type thing because this is so cool and she's so cool and I want her to see it. So yeah, I just painted it.
Did she see it?
She did see it. It's her icon now.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. And this star eye, was that something that you were inspired by from the makeup in the video, or was that your...
So she had a star on her eye, but I'm like, this, I can't make the eye just a normal eye. It has to look like the entire part of the star is almost like cyborg type thing. So that's just a mechanical eye basically, and that's why it's glowing so much.
Oh, cool.
It's almost like it's mechanical, but at the same time it's like ingrained in her DNA. It's just, it's a complex thing, and a lot of the meanings of the things that are there they're just in my head, and it's just a cool world happening, but it's so weird to explain out loud because some of the stuff is just weird.
That's okay. We love weird over here. This one, I love the layering happening here. I love how all four women seem to blend and like melt into each other. It looks like they're in a dance hall.
That's exactly where they are. That's exactly where they are.
And what is the name? What's the title of this one?
It's untitled. Actually.
Untitled? Wait, that's totally fine.
It's just the mood. I just wanted something. I just wanted people. I wanted hot girls, and I wanted it to feel like nighttime and lights are behind them. I just wanted it to be. I wanted it to feel familiar, basically, like nothing necessarily specific, but something entirely familiar.
Does this remind you of home? Does this feel like home? Yeah.
This is home. Like, this is the people that I see at home. Like, even, I'm pointing as if anyone can see what I'm pointing at. Even lady with the orange hair and the dark skin and the blue eyes. That's like, that imagery for me is when like my mom and her friends were going to parties and they were showering and they were coming into the room after showering and then getting ready right after. Just small things like that.
It's like almost like the ritual of going out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. This is making me miss the dance floor.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe it, but I feel like the painting is moving. And I think that has to do with how you've painted the background, but also the different dimensions that you're playing around with.
Because it forces you, because every time you look at a different person, they're in a different perspective, basically.
Yeah.
So it tricks your eye that you're moving around.
And our figure in the middle, what's her story? The one who has the biggest head.
I don't know what her story is, to be honest. Like, I never gave them a story, but now that I'm looking at it, I can like make up a story. But I never gave them a story. It was just like this large person, and I know there's other people around her. Like, there's no real story to it. It's whatever. It's just to guide you where your story wants to go, and you'll go there. But it's just the base of the feelings.
For me, she's the queen of the dance hall. That's what I'm getting from her.
She's a dancehall queen for life. Gonna
For
explode like
life.
dynamite.
Incredible. So the last of yours that I wanted to share with everyone is this piece. And what I really love about this is the layering that's going on, all the side-eye glances. Tell us more about it.
This one, honestly, it just came from me needing to diversify the things that I was painting. I'm like, I need to push myself more. I need to do things more out of the ordinary for me. So I was like, let me just draw some organic shapes and then put faces on them, because that's what I know how to do best. So I just drew some circles, and then I had to kind of figure out how the circles would exist in space with each other. And then I was like, oh, why not make this one circle up here the lightning circle? So it was just basically me playing around with space and playing around with mood, like facial features and how to display how each one feels.
Can you walk us through how you discovered your own painting style this year during the pandemic?
Yes.
Thank you.
I can. So so I am I hear that. Ooh. So I am, as we all were in quarantine, bored. I was just bored. I was in my house bored in the house bored. And and I knew I needed to diversify my painting. I knew I needed to get better at painting. I knew I needed to figure it myself. So I was just sitting with myself and just letting go of all the inhibitions and all the things that my art school was telling me I shouldn't do, and just play with style, even if it doesn't make sense. Just try to make something that feels good for me. So I think, so the first time I did something that was almost my style, I was just looking at a piece from one of my favorite artists at Portefeuille on Instagram. And I was like, I have to repaint this piece. So I repainted it in what I felt like was my style and color scheme. And it just worked. And then I just threw myself into painting everything with that style and with that feeling that first one had. So that was the gauge. And then now I'm working my way through to the other ones.
And you seem really prolific. It seems like you're always painting something new, always adding something new to your Instagram.
Yeah, I think it's an obsession at this point. Because it's so new still. Like, having this style is so new. So every time an idea comes to my head, I'm like, I want to do this. I need to do this. I will completely forfeit all my responsibilities just to paint a new idea that comes. It's not good.
That's not, but
it feels good.
It's what's moving you. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen or hide my screen. And I wanted to get into a bit of both of your experiences with art schools, because I know you kind of have different experiences. And I think that's a really interesting conversation for young emerging artists to have. We can start with Esther. Sorry, 1 second. I'm trying to just get myself back together.
Oh, okay.
Tell us about your time at Concordia, and you also went to another school before Concordia.
Yeah, I went to Dawson. Yeah. So I feel like my experience was pretty good. I really enjoyed it because it pushed me a lot, because I had to paint multiple paintings. I had to like complete multiple projects. And I feel like at first I didn't have a style. And because I saw many other artists that did, that kind of pushed me to have my own style. Because obviously my mom would tell me it would be great if like people saw your work and knew it was you, you know? And so I kind of like wanted to try so hard to create that style. But at the same time, it was very, very stressful. Because, you know, growing up, I thought like realism was art. Like there's nothing else. Like even though there was Picasso out there, I thought realism was art. That was it. Like, and just like going to school and kind of feeling so frustrated while I was doing realism, I kind of realized like, oh my gosh, this is not for me. And realism is not for everyone, you know? And I kind of like, and I think I think it's really the teachers that make you have a really good experience, you know, like the teachers that
Mhm.
push you and see potential in your work. Like when I was at Concordia and I had a teacher who basically said like he didn't want us to look at images at all. Like, and usually I always looked at images. He was like, no, for this project you can't look at images. And because he challenged us, I kind of like painted without images and created this really weird character. And like over time I kept like challenging myself and really enjoying that. And that's when I really discovered my style, you know? And so I feel like it's when teachers really push you, and that's what makes it a really good experience. You know, I can't speak for everyone, but for me because I was painting so much, I got to discover my style and create different works, you know, and kind
Mhm.
of see myself evolve into the artist that I am today. And so for me, like I've had someone ask me if they should go to school, and I'm like, for sure, it's not for everyone. Like if you don't like being bossed around and having a deadline for each painting project, you know, like that's not for
Maybe not,
you know.
yeah.
But like for me, it was like it pushed me, you know, because sometimes I would get lazy, but because I had a deadline, I had to be like, okay, let's do this, you know. And like to find my style, like finding my style was just because like I had this project and I created this really large painting, and then I forgot that the teacher wanted us to make two paintings. So I was like, oh my gosh, like it's due like tomorrow. And then I had to like I took a random canvas in my locker and then just painted a woman. And that's when like I don't know, this it just appeared, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I found my style. And then I would just practice, and then I found it, and I was so happy. So it's
I
just
love
like
that.
having to paint for so many years. You know, it took me so long because I've been painting since I was 12. Like even before that, I was in visual arts in high school. So it took me all those years to like really discover my style, and also being surrounded by other artists and like also being inspired by their works and seeing how they work and how they create the space in their works as well. So it's been really good for me. But obviously, like as a Black person, there's not a lot of other Black artists, and there wasn't many, you know,
Yeah.
in my school. But also the fact that some teachers didn't even know how to paint Black people, it was just, it was kind of a struggle. But at the end, you kind of like, you go, you find your way.
Yeah. Before we get to Kadine's answer, I just wanted to let everyone know we have some questions that we'll get to, but I think what's really interesting is that the major difference between your experiences is that you studied painting and drawing and Kadine studied illustration, which seems more geared towards, maybe working for advertising companies or a different kind of art. So maybe you want to speak about that.
Yeah. So I had some of the same experiences that Esther had, like especially for my non-illustration classes. Like we had painting classes, we had drawing classes, and that really helped, like skill wise. That helped me so much. One specific class that really, 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 really helped me, and I was so grateful for it. We had a human anatomy class, and that class, it taught me so much, like gave me so much confidence, much more confidence in drawing people. But I digress. um Honestly, I think why I had such a bad experience is what I was just getting so fed up with the space that was there. Like for most of my classes that I had, I was the only Black person in my class. Like I'm coming from Jamaica where everybody's Black, everybody's on the same wave. I didn't know, it was just like, whoa, this is different. And I don't know how to connect with my teachers because we don't have any common ground, because this white man is looking at me and I'm looking back at him like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So I think I was just getting fed up. Like I was so stressed out, and I'm like, these people aren't teaching me. Like the first 2 years, it was like, okay, I'm learning such new things. You come in so bright eyed and bushy tail, and no, then it started coming down to the second semester of second year, and I'm like, they're teaching me the same thing over and over again, like already. So I can't imagine what the next 2 years are going to be. I just got stressed.
Mm-hmm.
It was just stressful.
But now you've found a different style, which you found completely outside of the academy, which is interesting. But I think we are running a bit of close on time. So if we can get the questions on screen. So
On screen.
when did Kadine know that art is her life?
That's such a nice question. I think I always kind of knew, like when I was younger, I was just good at art, like without even trying. But I was like, no, let's do science. That's more practical. And everybody told me that, oh, you can't do this art, you can't take this art thing seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2017, I came to Canada and I bought a sketchbook and I realized, oh wow, I don't want to do science. Like I want to do art and I've always wanted to do art and I don't know why I'm here doing science. Then I went back home. I registered for an art class and it was kind of in a weird way. I kind of just ran up on the teacher and he's like, you can be in the class. We'll just deal with the administrative thing later.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, let me apply for OCAD. And I applied and I got in. So I was like, okay, this is art. This is what we're doing now. It was very impulsive. Anything could have gone wrong at any given time. Like I only applied to OCAD. I don't know if my parents know this. I only applied to OCAD. It was the only school I applied to. So if I did not get in, I would not be going to university. So it was just by
You got
chance.
it?
I was like, let me take this chance. Let me take
Mm-hmm.
all the chances and see if it works. And it did. Just like, oh.
Okay. So both of you can answer this question. Which artists are inspiring you at the moment? Esther, do you want to start?
Oh, yeah, I don't mind. I'd say Kent Monkman and Kerry James Marshall. I think I really love their work, especially Kent Monkman because he works with acrylic as well. And so I saw his works before at the Musée Beaux-Arts in Montreal. And that's where I really fell in love with his work and all the colors and everything that could be done. And mostly because at school, everyone was trying to be an oil painter and they're like, you should all go to oil, and they were trying to convert everyone, and that pissed me off, and seeing Kent Monkman's work was like, yes, I can make wonders with acrylic. And obviously Kerry James Marshall. I remember I had that one teacher that I was just talking about, like how I didn't really know many Black artists, and he was like, you know what, next class I'm gonna make a PowerPoint just for you. So he was showing a bunch of different Black artists. And I was like, oh, okay, Jim Marshall, I really like how he paints Black people. And yeah, so that's an artist that I really like.
And Kadine?
For me, because I live on the Instagrams. So there's this one artist, Forever at Portefi, and another one, and I can't remember their handle right now. I cannot believe that I can't remember this, but I think it's like AHSOTN _ something like that. But their work is so good, it's so beautiful, and I've just been so enamored. So I keep going on their pages. I have sketches, and I just keep going on their pages as visual reference and shape reference and see what I can learn from them. Yeah.
Maybe you can share with us later when you remember.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there are any more questions. Oh, we do, from Jalen. I like Esther's take on body hair. I might have missed this, but is this an extension of accepting one's body in general? A link to body shaming?
Yeah, of course, because as a woman, we can't be hairy, in the society, we always have to shave and all that. And I think that personally, at first, I didn't know there was a whole community like January as well, Maple and January, which are, Instagram accounts that really promote that and kind of the woman's natural body and having body hair. And I feel like because I accepted myself as I am, obviously it was kind of tough, but I had to do that for myself, but obviously it's because of the way we're seen in society, but also recently I found out, because I'm in my Ivorian side, I'm from the Way tribe, and my aunt revealed to me that in our tribe, women were very, very hairy, and like body hair was seen as very beautiful and like it was like sexy and all that, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, but now I get some really strange messages from men ever since that I started my project, because there's like there's people that are like fetishize like female body hair and stuff. Anyways, that's not the point, but it's just to say that it's just to say that you know, I learned to accept myself, you know, because I was all alone. I didn't really see other women that were, you know, loving themselves as they are with body hair. You know, I didn't see other women with chest hair, and I guess I had to do it for myself, you know, to save myself, you know. And so I did that, and I'm really happy to inspire other women. Like, I get a lot of messages from other women telling me that they thought they were alone because they have chest hair as well, and they thought they were alone. So it makes me cry, and it makes me so happy, you know, because I'm happy I got to be that person for them, you know.
Yeah, I love that. So a question for both of you. Can each of you share whether you have the final image in your head when you start a project, or do you develop the whole image as you work on it? Plus, approximately how many hours are invested in a piece on average? Please also comment the size of your works.
Ooh. Do you want to
This
answer
is
that
very
first?
technical.
Yeah. So maybe start with the first part of the question.
I don't know if you want to start or
Oh, I can
Whoever
go. Yeah,
wants
I
to
can
take
go.
it. Yeah.
All right. What's the first part?
okay.
If you have the visualization of the process.
Yeah.
at
Do
the
you
end of the
see the
work?
final thing when you start, or do you kind of do you get to it on the way?
I get to it. Like, I'll be there, and I mean, every time I'm posting, because when I paint, I like to post progress pictures on my close friends on Instagram. So I keep going back through them, and as everyone is going through them, is the same way I'm going through them. I don't know what it's going to look like at the end at all, because as much as I plan colors and plan how everything is going to look, something changes during the in between, especially if I really, really, really get into it. So no, I'm just walking, and sometimes it's like while I'm doing it, I'll see like a quick glimpse of how a small part would look, but never the entire piece. I can't visualize that at all.
And how many hours do you invest on average in your work, like in each work?
It truly depends. It could be 3 hours. It could be from 3 hours to 3 days. It just depends on how I'm feeling and what I'm painting.
And what is the scale and the size of your paintings?
My stuff is super small, like super, super, super small. It's like I actually have.
Do you have any nearby?
It's like this size. It's like this size. Yeah.
And Esther, do you want to answer the question?
Yeah. So I have an image in my head that I paint. It's like a very basic image of my idea. I think for me, it's always important that I have a message and I have this idea what I'm gonna paint. Sometimes it's kind of hard for me to just take a canvas and start painting. It's very rare that something wonderful happens, you know. I really have to plan and like even have my sketchbook and write everything down and everything that I want to include to not forget, and to just really like I brainstorm a lot before creating a painting. And so for me, I have to have a clear idea of what I'm gonna make. And for the next question, the hours, like, days, sometimes months. My works are like kind of large. Like some are small, but in general, I like to work on big canvases. When I was like a kid, I used to work on small canvases, and then I had a teacher that forced us to work on a really large 48 by 60 canvas, you know? And so I started loving it. I was like, oh my gosh, I love big canvases. This is great. So like my works are like 30 by 40, 38 by like 34 by 48, 40 by 60, like, and stuff like that. I really like working large. Like, I feel like there's so much space to like add whatever you want.
And are any of the artists here thinking of working in the film industry? Interesting question. I wonder in which context, but are either of you thinking of that?
I thought of having my work one day, like a producer is like, yeah, I want your work in the background of this character's like room or something.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, that's what I imagine if you're talking about that. But I don't know. I don't know exactly what you mean by that question. as an actress or like as what exactly? Like I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Well, I know, yeah, producers and set designers will often reach out to artists directly to pull
Hmm.
for, like, for films and television.
I
Exactly.
would I would love to do storyboarding for a movie. Like that's how I would want my art to be a part of. Like I would love if I could storyboard and fix and creative direct all the colors in the movie based off something that I would like see, based off
Mm.
something that I would paint, like in the world that I paint. Period.
Yes. I would love
Yes.
to see a film that's in the world that your paintings exist in,
Yes.
especially like the
That's why I want to learn
colors.
animation.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
What do you hope viewers think about or question through your work?
I don't know if I should answer. I don't know.
Either of you can take it.
I guess I'll go. Um, okay, what do you have a question? Okay, I think that I want to be able to connect with people emotionally. Most of my characters, I try to capture something in their eyes, or I want them to relate in some way. But for my body hair, particularly my activism, I feel like it's more about normalization and helping other women to love themselves. And through my work, because I think it's really important to create characters with body hair, because we don't often see that in museum spaces and such. And so for me, I think it's important so we get to see that, because a lot of people don't even know that women have body hair and stuff like that. So, or even have chest hair or beards, like, and things like that. So for me, it's more like just questioning our ideals and questioning our society and how it is, and you know.
Mm-hmm. Kadine?
For me, for me, it's just for me, it's much more my work. I just want it to be fun. Like it doesn't mean anything really. It's like a fun place to be. It's like a skating rink. You know how you just go to
Mm-hmm.
the skating rink because it's fun, just because.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want my work to be. Just somewhere where you can just look at for fun. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just a comforting place, like an escape, basically.
Yeah, like escapism. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your questions, everyone. We're going to wrap up, but I want to thank the both of you for joining me today and for sharing with us and talking through a bit of your work and some of your paintings. Where can everyone find you? What are your Instagram handles?
Oh, okay. um, so my Instagram handle is artist_SEESIE, and also queen_SE.
Thank you.
Mine is just Kadine Lindsay on every platform. Any platform you can think of, just type in Kadine Lindsay and I'm probably there. Yeah.
And thank you again. Thank you to everyone who's joined us and who's watching. And thank you to everyone who shared some of their questions with us. And for joining us at Dunlap at Home. Everyone, have a good evening.